Hey guys, it's Alex from CNY Women's Network. I just want to quickly tell you about a couple events that we're going to be hosting in December that I think you will want in on. So the first event that I want to tell you about is our in-person networking event happening at Common Space Work on Wednesday, December 4th. We're going to be featuring Kiana Franklin of KSF Consolidated for a little networking mixer, followed by a fireside chat, live Q&A, and some one-on-ones. We're going to be covering topics for all things accounting, taxes, and financial goal setting. This is the perfect time of year to start wrapping your head around getting ready for tax season. Attendees will have access to pick an accountant's brain before tax season is in full swing, so be sure to come with whatever money-related questions you have for Kiana. We're going to be meeting at Common Space Work on Wednesday, December 4th from 5 to 7 p.m. for some networking, a fireside chat, Q&A, and some one-on-ones with Kiana, so definitely don't miss out. And of course, to curb the appetite, attendees will get to enjoy complimentary champagne, sparkling water, and charcuterie provided by She Fancy Catering Company. Secondly, we have a community call happening. This is a virtual event that will be happening on Tuesday, December 3rd from 9 to 10 a.m., where we will be discussing persuasive speaking in the workplace. We're going to be featuring Carrie Murwowski for this event. Carrie Murwowski has her PhD, and she is the Director of DEIA Learning and Development in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion at Syracuse University. Carrie is going to provide a short lecture on public speaking. Then she will lead an interactive workshop on persuasive speaking in the work setting that can be adapted to sales pitches, convincing your team or supervisor of your big idea, or simply just advocating for yourself. Carrie will also provide a list of resources for us to share with attendees right after the event. Both of these events cost only $10 to attend, but if you're a member of the Collective by CNY Women's Network, then you get to go for free. So if you're interested in either or both of them, be sure to visit our show notes so you can find the links to register, and we'll see you there. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Cultivate CNY. And if you are new here, welcome to the show. I'm Alex Canavan, your host, and I am so excited for you guys to hear from this week's guest. She's a registered nurse, lens practitioner, and certified Reiki 2 practitioner. She's also the founder and visionary behind Renewed Vitality, a health and wellness therapeutic treatment center in Fulton, New York. I cannot be more excited to have Cassie Brown join me on Cultivate CNY. This episode, we're talking all about low energy neurofeedback system. Lens is a safe, non-invasive, and painless process that helps patients with depression, PTSD, sleep disorders, brain injuries, emotional imbalance, ADHD, and even chronic pain. In this episode, we talk about Cassie's story living with 2 traumatic brain injuries, both which occurred within only 9 months apart from each other, which is really crazy. We talk about how she found lens therapy through a suggestion that her mother made and how it changed her life. And we also talk about the future of health treatments and what we both think of everything that's going on in the wellness space. So without further ado, let's welcome Cassie Brown to Cultivate CNY. Cassie Brown, welcome to Cultivate CNY.
Great. I am so excited to be here.
I was so excited to sit down with you today because I can tell that the conversation is going to blow people's minds. I would love to hear about your journey and tell us a little bit about your story that led you to Lens.
So it is a journey that I'm very thankful for. When I first started this journey, it was a little over 10 years ago. I was in a pretty severe horse riding accident. I was a horse rider for 10 years, and one horse riding trip did not go as planned. I am very affirmative to everyone to always wear your helmets. I was an avid horse rider. I thought I was invincible, and I went on a trail ride with a friend, and I had fallen off the horse. The horse tried to jump over me and couldn't, and my skull was injured with multiple fractures. I had 2 major brain bleeds. About a month later, I woke up in the hospital at Upstate, and my whole reality had changed. I was awake and aware during that month, but I was not cognitively there. I was not myself. And my first memory was about a month into the hospital stay, and I just remember being like, I know I'm in the hospital, but why am I in the hospital? Then I did 6 months of outpatient rehab, occupational therapy, physical therapy. I really was working. Before the accident, I was very strong willed, and thank goodness I was, because that really helped me through the process. But, with head injuries and concussions, it's very difficult for people to understand what it's like until you go through it. And during that process, I, really didn't feel like myself emotionally, physically. I really just felt like caged in my own mind. And, I worked really hard to get back to work. I got back to work. I was a registered nurse before the accident. And then 9 months after the first accident, I was in another state visiting a cousin of mine, and I was in a car accident, um, unconscious, brought to a trauma 1 hospital, and I received a new fracture on the right posterior of my skull. So, 2 head injuries in a 9-month period. My doctors were like, you know,
Was it on the other side of?
the first one, most of the damage was the left frontal. I have a picture where I was like in a neck brace. They kind of just sedate me when I first got there. I was in like a little mini induced coma.
Mhm.
I had damage to other areas of my brain as well, but it was mostly in the frontal lobe. And then the car accident was in like the right posterior of my skull. And so the doctors were like, you're a miracle to survive the first one, but 2 in a year, that's a lot. That's a lot for your brain to do.
Mhm.
So I did go through, you go through any injury and any mental health or physical condition, you really have to work through that. And, I went through my little sad phase where I was like, why me? Why did this happen again? And then I was like, all right, I'm going to pick myself back up. Fast forward, I moved to Nashville, Tennessee. Great time. I lived in Nashville. I lived there for 5 years. However, your problems do come with you when you move, unfortunately. So, I had a great time living in Nashville, but the physical and mental health abilities really stuck with me. And I got to a really dark point in my life where I was going to take my life. And thank God for my mother, because, and this is when I was, sorry, um, if it wasn't for my mom, I wouldn't be here today. And I'm very thankful for her. And she actually researched and found lens therapy. So, lens is low energy neurofeedback system. And I will dive into that a little bit more. But it literally saved my life. I still have the voicemail on my phone to this day where she called me and was like, don't give up and don't stop fighting. And I just heard the worry in her voice that she knew I was going to take my life. And, thank God she found this, because I was like, all right, I'll do this one last thing. I had tried medication, therapist, went to my neurologist, went to my doctors. All of them were just kind of like, you've had TBIs, you have to live this way forever, traumatic brain injuries. And I was like, okay, well, living like this is not in the cards. This is not okay. So I went to my first appointment, did lens therapy, and got to see my whole brain map. And I literally started sobbing and was just like, okay, I'm not crazy. This is what's happening. This is tangible. I can see it in front of me. This is what's going on in my brain. And within a few sessions, I really felt a huge weight lifted off my shoulders and a fog lift from my brain. And it honestly changed everything for me. Um, so then I lived in Nashville. Things were going better, and lost my home in a tornado. I was in my home when that happened. So a lot of events have happened in my life, but and you go through phases where you go through them, and in the moment they feel really big and bold. But looking back after all this time, every one of those pieces was needed and meant to be to get me to where I am. So lost my home in the tornadoes right when COVID hit too. Thank God, I made a decision to come home after that to start over here, and I'm very blessed I did that. I was able to spend time with my family during the pandemic, but I came back to upstate New York, and I was like, how can I pay this forward? How can I help people? I just have that nature in me to help and give. And I couldn't get the vision of my business, Renewed Vitality, out of my mind, and I decided, well, I'm going to start a business in the middle of a pandemic. Okay. And Renewed Vitality is born, and it's been an amazing 4 years. I'm very fortunate, and I have just loved paying forward what saved my life and have helped so many people.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I'm sure there's so much passion behind what you do every day. What was the process like for you building a business from the ground up during the pandemic? I mean,
It
that's
was,
pretty bold.
yes, it was, I couldn't, it was just this stirring in my heart. So for anyone out there who has this stirring in their heart about a business, do it because there's a reason for it. You have that on your heart for a reason. There's a reason you're called to do that. I firmly believe that. It was a lot of navigating and help from resources. I thankfully had some really good mentors in my life that I'd go to when I was, really questioning, like, okay, how do I do this? How do I do that? I will say for anyone building a business, seek out mentorship, rely on like as many resources as you can. People want to guide you and lead you, but building during the COVID was a little challenging of a process, but honestly, I feel like it just built the resilience in the business so much more that if I can build a business during a pandemic, nothing can stop me. So I definitely was very fortunate that I had that tenacity and the passion of why I opened it, but also, it was a time when we needed mental health resources too with the pandemic going on. So I feel like it really matched up with everything that was going on in the world at the time.
Yeah. No, I fully believe in divine timing. And it's really hard to get a business off the ground in general. But when you don't understand your why or the reason or the purpose behind it, it can be 10 times harder.
Absolutely. Definitely can. It's like your anchor, really. It's the reason why you're doing it. Your why is what fuels you. Your why is like the reason behind it. Like when you don't have that, it really things can untangle very quickly. Like your why is just I feel like it's such an important resource for you at all times.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to, I think, get swayed off track, especially when you start a business because there are so many things you could prioritize or focus on. Um, and then, of course, there will be so many opportunities that come your way. It's easy to start, wavering and get off track and almost forget about what the goal is. I feel like that happens to me all the time just because there's always another project to start. So, low energy neurofeedback system, LENS is the acronym, which is what I called it earlier, is a safe, non-invasive, and painless treatment for people and it can help alleviate symptoms of depression, PTSD, sleep disorders, stroke, brain injuries like yourself, but also ADHD and chronic pain, right?
Yes. Yes.
How does that work?
So, lens, I'm so happy you're asking that because I could talk about it till I'm blue in the face. It's definitely my passion.
I'm just blown away.
It is. It's amazing because we had never, my family and we'd never heard of it before. No doctor had ever told us about it before. It's just like I always said, it's the hidden gem that we found, thank God, at the right time. So, low energy neurofeedback system, lens therapy, it is a form of neurofeedback therapy that is different from traditional neurofeedback. So, a lot of times with traditional neurofeedback, which I love traditional neurofeedback as well. Those help with brain mapping, and you get some auditory and visual feedback that really help with the threshold parameters of where we want certain brainwave activity to be and go. And that's where a lot of times you'll get a visual field of a, reward system or an auditory response. Lens neurofeedback is not that. So, lens, you do not have to partake in a visual and auditory feedback. It's actually a small electrical impulse that we give back to the brain. Now, I always preference, though, we do not do shock therapy, just so like, no one would come to us. But what we do with a lens session is someone will come in for their first appointment. We'll have a full brain map that we will obtain. Now, if there's sometimes that people, we can't get a full brain map because they're feeling a little tired in between the middle of their session, no problem at all. Everything is adaptable per person and we make it unique just for you and your experience. That's where we're also a little different. We are valued on we love to make everyone feel seen, heard, and valued. I think a lot of times nowadays we're kind of rushing everyone on the cog wheel. And I personally did not like feeling like that when I was a patient with everything I went through. So I made that basically a standard for my practice that no, we want to take a minute and listen. Let's sit down, let's talk about what's going on with you. So During that initial appointment, we will do that. We'll go through your history. We'll do the first brain map. If we're able to obtain all the sites that we need, we'll get the full brain map. We'll put it up on the TV screen for you. And, a lot of times people have the same experience I did of like, whoa, okay, that's my brain. I can see it in front of me. It's cool. A lot of the kids like it too. It's like, whoa, there's my brain. Or sometimes they're kind of like, all right, mom and dad can listen. I'm gonna like open this book over here. But it's pretty great because we'll go through all those different brain sites with you and a lot of the areas we're seeing that, might be struggling a little bit more than the other. And then we'll create a plan where we'll, target specific brain sites of what we want to achieve. But when we're obtaining that, we're placing sensors on your head. We're monitoring the electrical activity of the brain waves that we're monitoring on our screen. We'll then tell the computer what frequency we want to emit back to your brain. It will go through our little amplifier device, go up through the sensor, go through to that targeted brainwave site. And what it's doing is it's like a mirror. It's mirroring back a frequency we want to give to that brain site. So it's helping break up and disrupt disruptive patterns because our brainwaves are firing every millisecond, even actually at a faster rate than that. But like the brain is so powerful, we can't even half the time measure how fast the frequencies are going. But when we give that small frequency, I always tell everyone, it's like you're like looking at yourself in the mirror. If you were to have lunch and then you were to go and look in the mirror and you're like, oh, I have ketchup all over my chin. Oh my God, I had no idea. You didn't know that. So sometimes how can your brain know it's not operating in the way it should be? How does your brain know it's not, firing in the right frequencies it should be? Sometimes that small disruption will really like make the brain pause for a minute and be like, wait, why am I functioning like that? Wait, I know I'm not supposed to be doing this. This is not me. And we're training the brain to help get on the pathways it was originated to do and help it operate as efficiently as possible. I've had so many people, like, even after a few sessions, they'll come in and be like, how you feeling? They're like, so I'm not anxious. Like, but I don't know how to not be anxious. So that's a great navigational piece too, is like, we really need to help people through what is life without anxiety? What is life like without depression? So we need to go at your brain's pace because we don't just go in and flip a switch and say, hey, everything's great and better, but we really need to help tailor it to you because so often people have lived with these symptoms so long of all these different areas of their life, PTSD, anxiety, depression, that we need to give your brain time to live without that too, because it's adapted so well. And it's like, hey, you know what's safe? Anxiety. Anxiety is safe because I'm keeping you protected. But when I take that away or diminish those symptoms, your brain's like, wait a minute, are we safe? What's happening? So it's a great process where we work with you through that. And, myself and my other practitioners, like all of us have been through lens ourselves and we all have been through our own mental health struggles and life struggles. So I tell everyone we don't walk in your shoes, but we will walk alongside you and we want to help support you in the best way possible by giving your brain like a little mini reset and rewiring, but also helping kind of coach and be with you through those processes too, because we've lived them ourselves.
Hey guys, just want to take a little break from the show so I could tell you about today's sponsor, Renewed Vitality. Stuck in the muck and ready to start feeling your best? Renewed Vitality in Fulton, New York uses revolutionary therapy systems like lens therapy to help your body self-regulate and function at its best. With lens therapy, you'll start by getting a detailed map of your brain, pinpointing issues related to anxiety, depression, sleep disorders, migraines, and more. This gentle, non-invasive approach helps reduce or eliminate symptoms, giving you lasting relief and a better quality of life. As a valued listener, you get $60 off your first lens appointment. Just add the name of this show to the How Did You Hear of Us section on the new client intake form linked in the show notes. All right, let's get back to the show. So how do you start to coach them on that? Like, what have you recommended to your clients, that are experiencing discomfort because they no longer are depressed or anxious anymore?
Unfortunately, like I tell a lot of people, look at our lives, what they were even 10 years ago. The world is speeding up. The world is going at a very fast rate and it's putting a lot of pressure on a lot of people. And that's exactly what we need to do sometimes is really like pause, reflect, get in tune with our bodies. And that's where we're very open with like the lens neurofeedback therapy, even. We're a piece of the puzzle. Sometimes when most people come to us, it's honestly when they've been like, I've tried everything, nothing's helping, nothing's working. And we're like, Well, don't give up on that though, because, this could be the missing puzzle piece that could open you up more to those things. We're very open with people. Hey, if you have a chiropractor, please keep seeing them. If you have an acupuncturist, see them. If you, still maintain a good relationship with your primary care doctor, like we're not saying, hey, it's us, we're the end all be all. No, we're so open with like working with all these other modalities, and it just strengthens each other. We're all about, hey, like let's all work together to help this individual, to help this client, to help this family. Let's not all be apart. And I see that happening so much in, you know, medicine, and even sometimes in the mental health field. It's like we need to strengthen each other by coming together and not come apart. We need to like converse with each other, talk openly about things. But really, we really encourage people and say, if you have a therapist, please keep seeing them. If you would like to have mental health like therapy or a counselor, please, we recommend that. Honestly, we tell people like, you know, having the lens therapy, I would say sometimes it's like we're going in and we're unlocking your subconscious mind, and we'll be there with you, but it'd be great if you had a professional therapist or counselor who has more tools in their tool belt to help you, and they can walk in there with you to your subconscious and help you unbox some things or grieve some things that you might have not even had access to before. I can't even say how many clients that have come to us with lens, and they're like, they either started seeing a therapist or continued with a counselor, and they're like, I am opening up about things I haven't in 3 years to my therapist. And I'm like, welcome to lens therapy. Hello. But we're all about, I love that you listen to Dr. Joe Dispenza. I really encourage people to listen to even like podcasts if they don't want to see a therapist or a counselor. We're having such a technology boom that's happening, but there are so many resources out there too. There's podcasts, there's free YouTube videos, there's books, there's, Audible. There's so many resources out there that say Dr. Joe Dispenza is not for you. Well, there's someone else out there that might be for you. It's honestly, it's really unfortunate. Like my mama bears clients, they see, I love them, and they're like, they work so hard, all even fathers, family members do, but like I've seen so many women that I'm like, I need you to just put a timer on your phone. Let's just start with 2 minutes. And like their whole body tenses and cringes, and it's like it's like I'm like, if you can't take 2 minutes for yourself, that's a problem. That's no, you should, like, I don't care if you have to lock yourself in the pantry and the kids' hands are going under the door. That's mom's 2 minutes. Like something something to take like just a minute to check in, like you said, self-regulate, check in with your body. What are your needs? What's
Especially if you
happening?
don't want to become sick. I mean, like, stress is the leading cause of inflammation. Inflammation is the leading cause of disease. So, and I don't know, that might be controversial. I don't know, but like that's exactly where my mind goes when I see someone that I mean, so many of us are people that are addicted to negativity, addicted to stress and anxiety, addicted to drama. Like people that love reality television are addicted to drama. It's like that's their fix, right? And hey, to each their own. And I am not one to judge because I have my own vices that are not good for me either. But when I think of this stress and anxiety that we're all carrying with us for so many hours out of the day, I mean, I can only think of like, what is this doing to us long term? What is this really going to do? So remembering that it's important to carve out that time every day and to like make sure you're getting it done and regulating your nervous system, calming down, nourishing the body, taking care of yourself. I mean,
I love it. And have you ever read the book The Body Keeps Score?
mhm,
Yes, love
yes.
that. But it literally, I love that in the book how it talks about how like your cells and your body is like addicted to those responses too. And that's sometimes for the brain as well. Like I tell everyone, that negativity loop or that obsession or that thing is your brain, that is its comfort though. It knows that. It's normal. It's like coasting for the brain. It's like,
And social
yeah,
media doesn't help. I mean, if you're on the wrong side of social media, it can be so detrimental.
I fully agree. And that's where, like I said, it's so it's so great that we do have these resources, technology now, and it's like the world is moving at like this pace. But that's where, some of the other work I do, I work with Dr. Robert Melillo, and he is amazing. He is just the things he's doing to help children and families and adults. It really, like, all like social media, technology, all of those things, it's really driving our left hemisphere. And our left hemisphere is very like, analytical, and, we really want to analyze, but our left hemisphere, all of these technological devices, even kids on their tablets in school and adults, a lot of us as professionals, like, we need it for, doing our social media content, or, people reaching out to us for meetings, or, there's so many other things, but so many things and devices are all driven by technology. So it's really, we're seeing in so many, with Dr. Robert Melillo, he is author of Disconnected Kids, recommend a lot of people to read that. It's great about the hemispheric integration, but a lot of times, a lot of people that are coming in and seeing him, a lot of times there's a left and a right hemisphere imbalance, and all this technology from the get, these kids are given tablets right when they're born, and like iPhones. I've had 2-year-olds that know how to work a phone better than me, and I'm like, wait, should this be happening? And a lot of times they're not really getting to know their body. Like, their mind is so fixated on the technology, and it's really causing a lot of hemispheric imbalances. And, he goes into that a lot more in his work, but it's really just, he was the first doctor I always knew there was something more out there. I was like, there's got to be more. Like, I love the neurofeedback, and I love all of this, and I love the science, but what else is happening? And he was the first doctor that, I did a fellowship with him, and I've learned his work, and, thankfully I work with him. But he was the first one. He asks, like, most parents when they come in to the office, he's like, your child was diagnosed with ADHD. Why? Has someone told you where that's coming from, or like autism, or PTSD? And most parents are like, no, like, no one's ever explained it. And he was like, okay, let me explain to you what's happening. And it was just a huge breath of fresh air to say, okay, like, he has all this research, he, like, all these results he's seeing with all these kids in his office. And it was so great to see, like, look what we're doing to our brains. Like, there is a huge imbalance that's occurring. And it made complete sense with everything I was seeing with a lot of adults and kids as well, with like the neurofeedback world.
Yeah. So what does the right part of the brain really focus on? Obviously the body, but more like motor
A
function,
lot of big picture,
like
a lot of like,
creative.
hey, creativity, artistic, big picture, left, like linear, small details. But that's where there's so many interlooping channels of like left and right hemisphere imbalances. And, the left hemisphere, a lot of times with a lot of these kids, is coming online far too soon, where the right hemisphere, it's more in our body. Like, we're getting to know our body, our nervous system, being in our body more. And that's where, like, the work he's doing is amazing, because, a lot of these kids with autism, they really are, non-speaking. And a lot of people think, wow, they have something wrong with their left brain. Not really necessarily the case. Like, a lot of times these kids have actually right hemisphere deficits, and they're not in their bodies. Like, they're not, they have the language. Like, these kids, people can't deny they're some of the smartest, most genius children on the planet, and they have all that locked in their brain. But it's hard for them to verbalize it, articulate it. They're not in their body, and there's so many more details to the left and right hemisphere, but it's those imbalances that we need to help. And, some people that are like, well, left, right hemisphere imbalances, how can that be? Like, we don't want to change our personality. No. I mean, there's beautiful gifts about that. Like, I'm a little bit more left brain dominant. So I'm very analytical, a little bit more. I'm not as, sometimes the right hemisphere, when there's deficits there's some social aspects and some things where, you want to go seek community, but you might feel shame and guilt. And there's so many different aspects of the left and right hemisphere. But some people that are so gifted and smart and talented, they might be a little bit more left brain dominant. Some artists, their gifts could be like musically inclined and seeing that big picture that some people don't see. Like, they've literally done tests on adults and children that, like, some people see one image and some see another. And, those are all gifts that we have, but balancing them doesn't make it so it takes them away. All of us have, attributes to the left or right brain, but when they're so dysfunctional and like one is so much stronger than the other, that's where we're seeing a ton of ADHD, the autism more severe. We're seeing a lot more people with these ruminating thoughts, negative looping patterns. And it's amazing the work he's been able to achieve and see all those things happening in the brain and primitive reflexes too. Those not being integrated properly when they should be by a year old, those are really affecting a lot of people as well.
There's so much that we could be doing, I think, day in, day out that has an effect on our brain. So, what are some of the things that you've discovered through the work that you've been doing?
One of the biggest things I see a ton with a lot of people is if they come in with a lot of rage or irritability. Big thing I'll always see on their map is I will go over an area of the brain, like more posteriorly, and I'll say, wow, look at this, on one of the things we call it the weather map, and we're looking at storms and if things are overactive or underactive. And this one area in particular with their sensory activity of like overstimulated, and I call it like too many tabs open in your web browser. I'm like, do you see this big storm? Like, does your computer have like 70 tabs open on your browser? And they'll laugh and they'll be like, yeah. And I'm like, well, that's how your brain's feeling. Like a lot of times when you're so sensory overloaded and overstimulated, that's your brain saying like, what happens? Your computer starts kind of freezing and glitching, and that's what's happening with your brain. Your brain's like, okay, wait, this is coming at me, this is coming at me. Okay, oh my God, all right. So what happens? Sometimes your computer needs a reset or it needs to shut down. A lot of times that's what I'll talk with people about is when you're so sensory overloaded, what's happening? Your brain's going, okay, okay. And then eventually, boom, it just needs to release all that energy and emotion. So some people will come in and they're like, yeah, I'm really irritable. Or they'll say, like, my husband or wife's really irritable, whoever's coming in, or a child too. And I'm like, well, you know why that's happening? It's, look at this sensory overwhelmed place of your brain. It's coming from that. And when we start working on that area and seeing improvement, what happens? Anger, irritability, gone. So a lot of times people, say they went to the doctor and they were just like, I'm so irritable, I'm angry. What could happen? Maybe they could say, well, maybe you should go to an anger management class, or maybe you should try this medicine, or, so sometimes it's something that's deeper under the surface. Don't always just look at the symptom. It could be something that's an underlayer of under that. So that's what I love about looking at the brain is honestly, it's like we're peeling back the layers and we can start seeing what's the brain revealing to us under the surface of what's causing the symptom. And even emotional thing, like there's some areas that we talk about, like emotional triggers and areas. And there was a time someone came in and I was like, well, what just happened? Like what's going on? There's a lot of like emotions and emotional triggers that are like coming up here. And they're like, well, I am not gonna lie, last night I probably had one of the biggest breakthroughs I ever had in my marriage, and it was amazing, and I was like, "Well, here we go, this is great," like, so it's beautiful to see, and, like, it's so I think everyone loves it too because 'cause we'll go through your session up on the screen that day too, and, like, it just matches up with you, like, I can't put that up for anyone else. If I put that up for, someone else in the room, they'd be like, that doesn't sound like me at all. It's all individually matched, and it's so cool to just that's why I nerd out about it. It's just like, how can you see your brain waves and see what your brain activity is doing on the screen and say, wow, it's coming from this area. What's going on in your life? Because sometimes it makes sense why some areas might be overly activated too. Say there is a triggering or traumatizing event that happened. Of course, that's going to be more stimulated and active. You just went through that process. But that's why we work with everyone individually and talk with them about, hey, well, what happened for you, or what happened this past week, XYZ, because based on what happened, someone could come in and they're like, well, XYZ happened this week. I could say, well, okay, thank you for telling me, because those are key pieces. I'm throwing out my whole plan for today's session. I'm doing something completely different. So it's such a great approach where it's like both of us working together. I tell everyone it's not just me saying, here's what you're doing, XYZ, I'll see you in a couple weeks, or I'll see you next week. It's, we're really doing this together. It's a partnership that we're working towards to get you to your goals.
Yeah, I can imagine. How often do you work with your clients? How often do they come in for scans and get a checkup?
Usually, so when we initially book, we always have everyone book at least 4 follow-up appointments. One of the biggest reasons for that is after you have your full brain map and all that information, sometimes that's the last thing on your mind is to wanna book an appointment when you go to leave. So we're like, "That's already off your plate, you don't have to worry about it." Especially people's busy schedules, we understand, we wanna make sure you can book ahead and, get the time slots that you like. But 4, just initially to start, we initially, like to have everyone, let them know it could be around 10 to optimally get the results that you want. However, you're feeling the results before then. We have a lot of people within a few sessions that are seeing the results that they want or starting to feel changes in their life. But we like to tell everyone, like, wherever at your own pace too. We have some people that have a few sessions and, they're seeing there's some more results that they want. Could be around session 5, we can stretch you out to every 2 weeks, and then maybe by session 6, 7, 8, you're out to every 3 weeks. Everyone's different though. Sometimes the more complex cases of like traumatic brain injuries, concussions, complex or childhood like PTSD, we might, based on what's coming up for that person, we might need to have 15, 20 sessions. But everything is the goal of, we tell everyone, we will love to see you, but our goal is to make it so you don't have to see us anymore. We want to make it so that your brain is not reliant on lens forever. We want to train your brain to be self-sufficient. And everyone's different too. I have some parents that their children have been able, with their medical professionals guidance, they've been able to wean off their medication. So instead of taking medication, they'll come to see us, every few months for a little brain tune up, we call it. Some people, they do well, so I never see them again. Some people, they'll come once a year. Some people, especially given the holidays that are coming up, I love it when we'll get calls like, I have to see my sister-in-law, so I need a tune-up. So it's honestly so as needed and individualized per person, on what they need in their life.
Are you looking to save big this holiday season? If you answered yes, then you are definitely not going to want to miss Medicine Based Beauty's Holiday Happy Hour on Thursday, December 12th from 5 to 7 p.m. Of course, you guys can look forward to some festive drinks and snacks, but better yet, they're going to be offering some insane discounts on treatment packages and gift cards. So if you guys are looking to up your beauty routine, definitely don't miss out on this incredible event. Thursday, December 12th at Medicine Based Beauty in downtown Syracuse from 5 to 7 p.m. You're not going to want to miss it. I know it's probably different for everyone, but what changes have you seen for people? I mean, what stories have you heard from your clients that really make you realize the impact of the work that you're doing?
There's so many, and it truly, I it
I'm sure
makes me
you've heard some crazy stuff.
yeah, it's like, that's why I say it's such a gift that I went through what I did before opening the business too, because I can relate so much with them. Like I said, I always tell them, I'm not in your shoes. I have not lived your day-to-day life, but I can relate in some ways. And that's just the nice thing, 'cause sometimes we can just kind of put down those masks we put on for everyone else, and we can just authentically be ourselves and just talk freely in the room. And sometimes we need to build that trust with each other. Some people will open up to me because on the first session, and it's amazing. But there's so many great stories. But honestly, like I will never forget a couple of them. One woman in particular, I loved it. She came in and she was like, "So, I went and got groceries." And I was like, "Yeah, all right, cool." And she's like, and I was unloading my groceries, and then it hit me. She's like, well, I was unloading them, and I was like, wait a minute. A few weeks ago, you couldn't even go into that grocery store because you were having a full panic attack thinking about walking in that store. And I was just unloading my groceries like it was a regular day. She's like, I had to stop myself and realize, wait a minute, this is a big change for me. Like sometimes the changes just seem so automatic. Like you forget that, like, looking back and reflecting a few weeks ago, I wasn't even able to go in that grocery store. And now just like a regular day, I was able to go in, get groceries, come home, unload. And it took me like all that time to realize, whoa, I couldn't do this a few weeks ago. So it was just a big moment for her. And it always stuck with me that I was like, wow, look at this change. Like she literally gets to get groceries now. How amazing. The kids, oh my God, they really, I'm a sucker for the kids. I love helping the adults, but I literally, I will try not to get emotional, but I had this mother literally tell me, I was seeing her son, he's a teenager at the time, and I'd seen him for a little bit of time, and she looked me right in the eye as we were, like, going out to, like, just as needed, and, he had been at a month for a little bit, and she was like, "I just wanna tell you, you saved my son's life, and he wouldn't be here today if we hadn't come here," and, so that was the whole reason I opened the business, is if I could just save one life, it was all worth it, and it was very worth it in that moment. And there's been other mothers think they've told me similar things for their kids. So like helping one is amazing, but helping so many, it it really warms my heart, especially with the kids. Like just knowing that they don't have to struggle as much as so many of us adults have, and we really get to set them up for a great future. I mean, that just means everything to me.
What are some of the things that you see the most, that brings people into your office? What are you seeing a lot of?
Biggest, ADHD, focus, irritability, anxiety, depression, a lot of PTSD as well. I do see we see traumatic brain injuries and concussions as well, strokes, but I would say the top things, anxiety, depression, ADHD, focus concerns, um, irritability, biggest areas. Those are some of the top things we see, and s- I hate that they're coming in for that, but honestly, those are some of the things we can help the quickest. There's always underlying reasons why they're having that, so it depends on what brought them. They might not even know it. What's really under the surface of that? It's been buried so deep for so long.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know.
It just becomes like a norm for
Yes,
most people. Just they feel
exactly.
like that for years and years before anything changes.
Yes, and that's where, if someone is coming in with those things, though, sometimes for us, it's like, okay, we can help quickly get you help, though. We can really get to these areas and really help you, maybe get better night's sleep, reduce that anxiety. So we can reduce the anxiety enough to really start working through where is this coming from? Where is this root cause? So, but those are the biggest things. And, especially the kids with the ADHD and the behavioral concerns. And, it's really been, we've just seen so many kids coming in more lately. The parents, it's like really fatiguing and burning out some of them, teachers, the kids. We see it on all areas. So we're seeing it ripple out and affect so many. So we're really focused on helping as many people as possible, but it's just rippling out and, affecting so many in great ways.
What are some of your biggest pieces of advice for people that want to take care of their brain? Like maybe things to avoid, things to do, make sure you do consistently. I mean, I can think of a bunch, but things that
Um,
I do at least.
it was a great topic. You already said, put down your phone and electronics. That is not saying like I mean the amount of there's a big thing there too, like the amount of kids we see that also are coming in and they're playing video games for 5 or 6 hours. That's can also feed into depression and anxiety and things like that. And focus concerns. So not that you have to be, free of technology forever and live in the woods, but put down your phone sometimes. Like even just put a timer on and like take 5 minutes, probably more than 5 minutes, but give yourself a little time. Like when you first wake up in the morning, that's one of the biggest things I ask people a lot. If they're like, I really didn't sleep well, and I'm like, okay, well, walk me through when you went to sleep, and they do, and like they're like kind of like curious where I'm going with it, and then I have them walk me through every step. And number one thing they always all say, pretty much everyone, they're watching TV or they're on their phone and they're scrolling, and I'm like, well, obviously you weren't sleeping. I wouldn't sleep either. Like you're giving yourself all that feedback of your brain to stay awake and blue light and stimulation. You're like telling your brain to stay awake and people are wondering why they're not being able to sleep. Of course, there's other things that some people could be going through, but number one thing, give yourself some time to unwind at night. Drink water. That's really good for your brain. Water is wonderful. The amount of people I don't see drinking water or having soda and sugar, you know, just give yourself a little water. Your brain loves water. It wants to have some nourishment. But biggest thing is really the electronics. Like when you're going down to sleep, give yourself some unwind time. Really turn off the distractions if you can. Same thing when you wake up in the morning. Don't reach right for your phone and say, what's going on in my news feed? Like maybe, just if you do need to pick it up, maybe put on a podcast or some music that you like, or just something that you can hear and just put it to the side. Don't instantly go into the scroll. Like set your intentions for the day of what you want. If you want to journal, great. I tell some people like, I don't like to write. And I'm like, okay, throw on your voice memo thing on your phone. Be like your own therapist. Like speak what you want to say and how you're feeling and listen back to it. Like there's so many different things you could do for your health and your brain and your mental health. And the biggest pieces can be like how you start your day and how you end your day. And that's where some people, they're kind of rush, rush, rush. Check in with yourselves, check in with your body. I would love to hear your stance. Like, what things have you found that have helped your brain health?
Well, yeah, I'm super strict about my morning and my night routine. I think that that's just if you have that and you're good about it, then you can screw off in other areas, but there are other things that I try to avoid. Like I don't eat within 3 hours of wanting to go to bed. I don't consume a lot of sugar, especially not at night. I mean, I try not to. I mean, come on.
Sometimes those bowls of ice cream at night, or
Yeah.
well, I try to do I do like gluten free and stuff, but like I don't know, one time like gelato, it's just so good. I do
Yeah. I
like
mean,
that.
there's nothing like a sweet treat at night,
I
right?
know, right? But like not,
But
yeah, to
your
the
brain
point.
is in, I think, the most crucial but vulnerable. Like, isn't it? It's in a certain brainwave right before you go to sleep and then right when you wake up, right? Like, you're in a different space. And therefore, the brain is a little bit more, it absorbs it a little bit more. So I just feel like the first thing that you see and hear when you wake up is crucial.
Yes.
And I try to see and hear nothing. And then I try to like develop my own dialogue for the day before someone else does. So I can be like almost like addicted to my routines in a way. There's definitely some OCD in there, but like I get I'll get irritable if you're asking me questions or if you're bringing like a certain energy towards me right off the bat. First thing in the day, I'm like, you are not going to control my day.
Yes.
I'm going
Yes.
to control my day.
I'm so glad you say that though, because like you have to put up those boundaries sometimes of like, whoa, like let me get in this mindset real quick, because that is it honestly. That's why I tell people like if you could listen to it, like even Dr. Joe Dispenza, he preaches it over and over and over again. We are in those brain waves that like really are about like the meditation and intentions, and like it's so true. Like where your focus goes, energy flows.
And
Like
I heard like the brain, I think it's like, I don't know what brainwave it is called. So I'm probably not equipped to speak on this, but I heard it's like the brain wave that you are in either right before you fall asleep and right when you wake up is like the most powerful space to be in if you want to manifest something.
yeah,
So if
theta.
you want to
A lot of times.
visualize or manifest anything, that's why people wake up at 5 a.m. to meditate. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? There's something about that time of day. And I think there's a certain frequency on the planet, honestly, but that's like a whole other
Yeah.
conversation.
Oh, we're
But
definitely going to get into that later.
but I also listen to frequencies when I sleep and when I study. I can tell when I'm overstimulated. I will sometimes listen to a frequency to like bring my body back to that level because I can tell I'm like way up here and I need to lower things a bit. But that's, I think, breathing, understanding breathing exercises and how to use them when you need to, frequencies, and just understanding the power of the morning and the nighttime routine has been huge. And also just avoiding things that we all love, but just are not good for our brains, like sugar and alcohol.
I agree. Yeah, alcohol is really, and that's where like obviously at one point I lived in Nashville, Tennessee, and I loved it, but Nashville's pretty known for what? Food and drinking and music. So, there was time periods when I really did like I was not getting help and answers. So I did turn and I tried to use alcohol as a coping mechanism. But it was pretty quickly on that I was like, whoa, no, don't this is not a road you want to go down because you are, drinking a little too much and you're just trying to push everything down. So at that point I was like, okay, like I'm slowing down here, but then what happens when you don't have that alcohol as a crutch or you're like, okay, but I'm still left without answers and what am I going to fill my time with? And that's where some people might go into other habits of like, binge eating or becoming consumed with social media or other like, and that's where, thank God I found Lens and some better coping mechanisms, but that's where it could really lead you down just a different rabbit hole of addiction or rabbit hole of, something that's not benefiting your mental health. And that's why that's great that you do that and like set that intention in the morning because it really is. I have a coach I work with and I adore her and she really has hammered it into me as well. Like I have this some people have vision boards and make those. We're a little bit some people have them at works. Sometimes I'm a little on the go, so a lot of times in the morning, I don't like to like it's after I haven't picked up my phone for a little bit of a period, but I have a thing called a mind movie. So I take images and I will literally have oops, I did it again. But I will have the mind movie and I will have it playing and I'll put it to the song that I really love and it's like all those images of the things I'm calling in my life flashing before my eyes and it is like telling my brain like this is where you want to go. This is what you want. And the rest of my day is setting up to like, okay, well, how am I going to achieve that? So it just helps so much in the morning doing that. And I notice days I don't do that and days I do. And it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, no, I love that mind movie. I've never heard that before. That's basically what I do. I just sit on my little chair in the morning in front of my red light panel and
I love
just
it. You have red
like
light.
it gives you the roadmap for the rest of the day and you're much more likely to do something if you know how to do it. And you don't know how to do anything if you've never seen it before. So that's why I think if we had this conversation 10 years ago, people would think that we're like out of our
Oh,
minds,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's not the case anymore, thank God. But I've been doing this since I was a little kid, and I just never knew that I was like manifesting because when you're day in, day out working around the clock, a lot of us have so many responsibilities. I mean, you can decide whether you're overwhelmed and overworked and it can be grueling or you can decide that you are building your life into something that you've always wanted it to be, but I can't feel like that unless I'm like consistently visualizing the future.
Yes, I completely agree with that. And I do have to say, I love that you said you use red light. I do. I love red light. I tell everyone, like, if you need to get a little handheld red light at home, do it.
It
Like,
calms my nervous system like that.
yes,
It's
it's
crazy.
so great. I mean, I tell everyone, I'm like, they literally like have used it for NASA. Like, it's amazing the benefits they saw. That's why a lot of studies came about of it. And like, I mean, we have a red light. I used to have like big red light booths, but I needed the space, so I had taken those down. But people loved it, so we have the red light back at my office, but I'm not kidding, like, the girls, the practitioner and my manager, they use it all the time. They
Mhm.
love it, like, it's so many benefits. I tell everyone, like, my grandmother went in to use it once, and she was, like, using it for her psoriasis because it really helped
Mhm.
clear that up, but she was like, "Well, my back feels better," and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, that's red light." Like, you could go in for one thing and get benefits elsewhere,
There's
but
so many benefits, and,
yeah.
the original reason why I got, like, I think it's like a 2 or 2.5 foot panel, so it's really perfect for, like, face
Oh,
and upper
yes.
body, but it's a good sized panel, so, I originally got it for, like, the skin benefits, of course, but I realized that it was so powerful when it comes to actually, like, regulating the nervous system, especially because we don't see the sun a lot here. We don't get enough vitamin D, not nearly enough. And there's just so much I've researched about it too, but it can be really good for your eyes, your eyesight. I know someone that had really poor eyesight and started using red light every day for like 2 months, and all of a sudden they didn't need their prescription anymore.
Wow.
Like,
That's incredible. 'Cause I knew they were
it
doing
takes a lot of work and it's not cheap, but it has made, it's had a huge effects on people's lives. But when, in the middle of the day, if I am feeling, maybe I just came off like a meeting where I had to be really, really on. And then
Yes.
now, okay, now I need to do more focused work where I'm just kind of in a flow state, but I can tell I'm way up here and I
Mhm.
need to I need to feel a little bit more grounded. I'll sit in front of the red light and do a certain breathing exercise and kind of meditate for a second. But I can physically feel things calming down, but maybe it's a placebo. I don't know. But
No,
I literally feel like a cat like basking in the sun.
oh, yeah. No, seriously, no, that's why, you know, I think people do wanna feel better at, like, the red light. If you feel the warmth on your skin, it does feel great, but, I mean, the science behind it, you said you researched it yourself, but, like, it's not a placebo, like, it's so many benefits, and I mean, they're doing so many more studies. I saw some studies of how they're doing more research of how it can help cognitively with like Alzheimer's, like red light caps, but also like Dr. Melillo, who I'm working with, he has his own protocols that he uses for like laser therapy and has seen just significant changes with people with what they're coming in for with like the ADHD, autism, behavioral disorders. And he's using that hemispheric approach again. But it's like, I'm so happy people are so much more open to like red light therapy and all these other, services because they really do help. And like you said a while ago, everyone would kind of look at us like, what are they talking about? Red light? What are they doing? No, we have the science to back us up and we feel the results ourselves too. Like, and I love that you use that and found it because why would you wanna go around with, like, a dysregulated nervous system? Like, you literally how amazing that we have that, like, you can literally turn on a light and bask in that, red and near infrared light, and you can enjoy the benefits and be like, "Okay, I can literally feel it," and it's an amazing thing, and it's great that you have that and know it too because, so many people out there don't know about these things, and that's why again, it's great that you've created this network of people that can come together and, like, learn about all these different services and modalities, and, I tell everyone, like, a great teacher of mine once had said, "Turn decades into days." Pretty sure it came from Tony Robbins originally, but it's so true. Why go out and not learn from others that have gone before you? Like they've gone out, they've learned. Go learn from them.
Yeah, it's like working smarter and not harder. I mean, there's no that's a pill that I had to swallow. I think this year as I've tried to navigate building this media company here, I I'm all for doing the work myself. I'm like very much a do it yourselfer. The business that I built before this as a makeup artist, I was a self-taught makeup artist. I didn't go to beauty school. I kind of understood the loophole and I worked for a makeup brand instead and just learned on the job and, YouTubed everything. But and that's how I've really learned a lot about marketing and media because I don't have a fancy degree or an MBA. So, luckily, we do live in an age where the information is out there. You just have to know how to find it. But instead of spending hours searching online or listening to podcasts or completing a course on something, you could just be asking the right person and they'll just make life so much easier for you. That's the power of mentorship.
Yes, I completely agree with that. And also, I love that you said all that because as soon as I walked in today, I was literally gonna be like, "Give me all your makeup tips because your skin looks flawless." But no, it's so
It's that
true.
red light, girl.
Oh, it's the red
It's
light.
the
I
red light, I
know.
swear. No, the reason why I wanted it is because of the anti-inflammatory benefits,
Yes.
and I swear when I wake up in the morning and my face is puffy, I sit in front of that thing, and all of a sudden I'll sit in front of it for, like, a whole 10 minutes, but my face is, like, normal.
It makes a huge difference.
It's
It really does.
yeah.
I love it all. I know
Everything comes down to inflammation,
it
right?
so much. I mean, there's
Apparently.
It's so true, and I love all the things that are coming out now about that. Like a doctor that I had taken my fellowship with, Dr. Melillo. His name's Dr. Peter Schreier, and he's doing a lot of research with like neuroimmunology and how much the immune is linked with neuro, and that makes complete sense because a lot of times we say like the gut is the second brain, and his research is astounding with what he's coming out with how much the immune system and the neural pathways are really connected, and him and Dr. Melillo are really working close together on publishing more research about it. But if you ever want to look him up, he has some fun stuff online. I really can't explain exactly everything to a T. What like it's just astounding when I listen to him speak. So it's coming down to inflammation and those markers, and how it's all regulated in our system.
The traditional American diet does not make any of that any better. It just wreaks havoc on our immune system, I'm sure, and
Yes.
just inflames us like crazy. So,
So
no, I'm
many.
into all this. I feel like I could talk about this for hours, and we could go down a huge rabbit
Yes.
hole, and we can get into all the conspiracy theories.
Oh, we totally could. I'm sure after this we're gonna go down the deep rabbit hole of everything. There's so much out there, and it's we're very fortunate to be in the era where we can speak about this more. It's not 100% mainstream yet, but I do feel like I'm possibly you as well, like feel just this shift happening with people where we're questioning things more, and we're like, hmm, what are those ingredients in all those foods they've been pushing to us for so long? Or, why are so many people, we're seeing so much more anxiety and depression and mental health concerns. And, everyone's kind of questioning things a little bit more. And, you know, not that I love the science and I love the medical part, but I also love, more holistic approaches and so many other modalities that we can start opening our eyes to more too. So I think it's great that we even get to, have these conversations now and talk more about mental health because, even God forbid, 10 years ago, it was still kind of taboo. So it's just, I think it's so many more resources are coming out now. And
And in some spaces it is still taboo, and there's people that, I mean, you have a medical background, obviously. You're a registered nurse, and I think that there's a lot of people that have come from that occupation and that background and have done something different in the industry. And I think it's really important to see people like you, the young leaders in this space coming forward and having just a much more open-minded approach to things, because it's not ever going to be a one-stop shop. It's never going to be a quick fix. And, there's so much more nuance to health issues. So just the traditional way of going to the doctor and getting a prescription and not batting an eye, I think those days are probably, they're not over, but we're on our way out because people are waking up and they're questioning things more. And I think a lot of that does have to do with just the amount of information that's out there now, you know.
again, it's that road of like, we love, we have our fingertips in so many resources of information, but it is like, want to make sure we're on the right side of it. And then it's always that fine line of like, hey, we have so much technology and resources. It's great. But at what point do we need to have that boundary to like, hey, put down the technology, go outside? Like, I loved it. Once someone said, have you ever tried green therapy? I'm pretty sure it was Dr. Melillo. He's funny. And I was like, we were all like, what's green therapy? He's like, go outside. He's like, run and jump and play. And like, he's like, it's funny. I said that to a parent once, and I like, now I'm saying it again. It's just funny saying those things because it is a different world. We want to make sure we're safe, but like, we want to like enjoy the earth and like go outside, put your feet on the ground, ground
Ugh,
yourself.
it's just not, life isn't what it used to be, but it really is so simple sometimes,
It's so funny
and we
because
forget
like
about it.
now it's like all the things we used to have for free.
Cost
People,
money
yeah,
now.
people are like charging for those things now.
Yeah, no, I actually saw a video that was like, literally, why am I paying a $200 gym membership when I could just go outside and work
Right?
out for
Yes,
free?
I know. I am one of those people. I think that. I'm like, dang, like I really could just go walk or I could do this, but it's just it's so different now. Like we are being charged for what we used
I
to have for
think
free.
I think our standards have also increased over time, and
Mhm.
we have had more access to things. It's just crazy. It's just consumerism though, honestly,
Oh
but
yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes it's like,
which I am the biggest consumer,
oh
so
yeah,
I'm
I mean,
guilty.
I am guilty. My biggest thing that I say a lot of times is first world problems. Like if I vent or complain about something, I'll
Mhm.
literally be like, I try to bring myself back down to earth. I'm like, okay, first world problems, like it's really not a big
Yeah.
deal. And it's for the gym thing. I think for some, like I know just for women, at least like for myself, I think sometimes it's a safety thing too. Sometimes like I'm like, do I want to go out in the area? Probably not. Am I safer at the gym? Yeah, it is a different world, but it's just we have to navigate the world and finding how we can still be able to go outside, especially God, like we talked about in upstate New York, we only have limited amount of time without we can go outside and not get sun. I keep saying the government should pay for our vitamin D, but I probably won't have it. But um, it is a different world to navigate, but we gotta cultivate it together. It's like we've just become so much more separated, in my opinion. Like it's just like with technology and stuff, like
And you're so much less inclined to get out and to go and be a human being when you don't have anyone else to do it with. So, growth, healing, none of that is done alone. It's always done in community, and I think that is the key factor that like makes or breaks it for a lot of people. I think a lot of people think because the world is truly designed for us to work remotely now and to do everything on our own and efficiently, like we all just don't think we need anyone anymore. But it's I think that's gonna change. They're saying like Gen Z is so much more community focused than but that's not necessarily the case because I feel like I I see teenagers now and they don't like go to their friends' houses. Like I was never
no,
home and
I know.
nobody goes to their friends' houses. They all just like talk on Snapchat and
I know. I literally, I love my sister, but I just had lunch with her yesterday and she was like on her phone the whole time. And I was like, how often do you put this down?
how old
I
is
was
she?
like, she's going to be turning 20.
Okay. Yeah.
So she was in that, phone era of growing up.
Mhm.
And it really is. The amount of, I've seen just such a shift.
Like they're literally antisocial.
Yes, yes, very much. And, technology again, it has its benefits, but it has its cons too. It's really affecting socialization with people. I do
I
I
think
thought,
COVID really did something
oh,
too,
oh my
for
gosh,
sure.
yes. Like it changed everything for like so many people.
I mean, I've become more antisocial for sure. I don't know if it's because I'm like growing up or something or
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with me,
Well, it's
but
just different too. It's not like
I
how it used to
I get
be.
anxious. I think I think I get overstimulated
Oh yeah.
from crowds and stuff like
Yes.
that, but I think when you're a kid, you're just craving any sort of experience, so you're open to it all, but maybe I'm just becoming a recluse.
Well, I mean, it is a nice thing in age though when you kind of are like,
You're
it's
over it.
like 8 or 9 p.m. and I'm gonna like
Yeah.
unwind and go to bed. And it is. I mean, I think it's age, but I think everything's changing. And I did think of I have definitely a nerd joke for you, but like, I was learning from a professor once, and we were talking about like the corpus callosum, and it's in your brain, and it's like connects the left and right hemisphere, and it's very vital for the brain. But when we were, he was going through that in one of the classes, um, you know, this my own being, I'm calling myself out. I was like, "Oh, it disconnects." I don't know why I said disconnect, but he was like, "No, it like you want to connect." And like he talked about that, and I was like, how crazy though that I instantly went to disconnect, pull apart, segregate, like and that's sometimes where our minds go a lot. It's like we need to be disconnected. We want to be isolated. Like if we are going through something, we don't want to reach out to a friend because we feel like we'll be a burden to them. Or, it's like, I always call it just the little, the little voices in your head that want to just pull you further away from people. And I learned at like a young age, like, no, don't like pulling you. Your brain will literally be like, hey, you're in your little cave of solitude and you're starving and you're hungry and you're cold, but no, don't go out there and get warmth and food and friends and comfort. Don't go out there. It's safe in here. And like, it's just awful. Our brain does that sometimes. And I always will remember that class because I'm like, why didn't my brain go to connection, people, like community, support? Half the time, if you go and reach out to a friend, and you are just like, hey, I'm going through this, sometimes they'll open up to you and be like, actually, I was going through this and I feel like I was going to be a burden to you. Like, we're so often like, hey, how are you? And everyone's like, good, I'm good. But one time I had a friend that was like, you're good, but are you really good? And it threw me off. I'm like, wait, what? They just asked me a follow up to that? What's happening? So I tell people to do that too. I'm like, sometimes just say, are you really good though? Like, kind of throw people off because it'll, people's defenses are usually up, but it can throw them off and maybe they'll want to open up. Like, and it's sometimes the people that you think have it all together that really don't have it all together. It's the people that want to be there for others, or you're like, oh, they have it together. I can't bother them, or they won't understand. Are you kidding? You have that's the thing. You can pass someone on the street and you have no idea what they're going through. So it's all about like, we really need to just come together and support each other more and connect and not disconnect. Disconnect is causing a disconnect for us.
Yeah, and loneliness
Oh,
is
yes.
a disease.
Very much
Like
so.
yeah.
That's where those thoughts, those
That's-
ruminating thoughts and
that's where that leads for
oh,
sure.
yes. Yeah.
I mean, I'm guilty of it. My instinct whenever I'm going through something is to just go through it alone and to just like not burden anyone. Don't bother anyone, God forbid. And unfortunately, a lot of us, grew up figuring out how to take the temperature of everyone else and please everyone else and meet everyone else's needs, and especially women. It's a common experience. So y'all, if you're listening,
Yeah.
are you still there?
Take care of yourself. And and really, great thing is you can always get a brain map, see what's going on in your brain, but also like for some people, if they can't, like, that's why I love that we talked about other methods or like things you can do for yourself, because you can always start there. Like, say someone's like, hey, I don't really have the funds or the time to do this. Okay, no problem. Totally. Like, when you're ready for this is when you're ready, if you want to come, but there's so many other things you can do for yourself in your day-to-day life. And like you even said, like starting your morning, like in the way you want to. And like, I hear from so many mothers that they're like, I don't have time. And I'm like, well, we're going to make the time. Everyone has like, I can't even get on the tangent of time because I think it's all like, just, it's so crazy how everyone can experience time differently. And I love physics and all that, but that's a rabbit hole for another day. But it really is. It's like, hey, okay, I know you're super busy. I know life is like a lot with several children. You're getting them off school, XYZ. But like, I'm telling you, just like, 5 minutes. Wake up 5 minutes earlier than when the kids wake up. Like literally just take that for yourself. Don't go to your emails. Don't go to social media. Just like take 5 minutes for yourself maybe. Or like we'll find what works for you. Like we'll talk about it. But it's like, we really have to carve out the time for ourselves. And we really have to focus on what is going to help our mental health, because it's just, if we don't help ourselves, who's going to be there to help us? We got to start within.
You also have to be your biggest advocate. It's not necessarily waking up and having the perfect morning routine, but it's waking up and at least having control of your morning and your day. And that can definitely happen in 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes. That's my favorite line. If someone's like, 5 minutes, I don't have it. I'm like, well, that's a problem. That's a
Then we
problem.
need to dial some things
Yeah,
back. That's
we
a
need to
problem.
figure this out. I sometimes love, I love like the cute little quotes and lines, but like one of my favorite things I've ever heard is like that really touched my heart was like, you are the only you that will ever be. Don't deny the world your greatness. Like, for some reason, you're here, you have a purpose, you have a gift, you have something in the world to share. Like, bring it to the table, bring it, and like do it for yourself. Like, being in a relationship with yourself and loving yourself is the key. Like, it's from within. And it's you. No one will ever be you on this planet again. Don't deny the world your greatness. Like, it has always stuck with me, and I love to share that.
That's amazing, honestly. We love that. You are incredible. Honestly,
So are you.
I can't wait to see everything that you do, especially now that you're doing the work that you're doing in New York.
I love it. It's great. I live on Long Island now, and I have my practice up here, so I love renewed vitality. But I'm working with Dr. Melillo, and we're doing great work. We have an office in Long Island, in Rockville Center, and in Manhattan, and I'm doing neurofeedback therapy there, not the lens therapy. We're doing a lot of research. We're doing qEEGs, quantitative electroencephalograms. We're getting full brain mapping, even, which is a little bit more data than we have with the lens therapy, but it's recording over a longer period of time. And we're just seeing huge changes with these kids. Like, it's truly like Dr. Melillo's getting like, you know, autistic kids who are nonverbal before they're speaking now. And it's just life changing. He's helped so many, and I just can't wait to see that continue to grow and work alongside him and the team we have there. And, in the future, I'd love to bring on some of his services to our practice, a couple, he uses an interactive metronome, and I love that. We're planning in the future to bring that on into our the renewed vitality practice. It works on like a timing mechanism approach, and the kids love it. So I'm planning to bring that on in the future. As we're growing, but it's truly incredible to get to work with him and see the things we're cultivating there, and still have, such great approaches at renewed vitality with the team, and help people in, the Oswego and Onondaga community, and offer another mental health service too. And I can't wait to see you continue to grow too, because this is amazing and I love being here. And you've like created such a great platform and space for women to all come together and share their experiences and stories. And it's been amazing to watch you grow, because this is like, the space is beautiful, and how amazing it to be right here in Syracuse and have this for so many women to cultivate and come together, but also like get this information out there. So thank you for doing what you do.
Oh yeah. No, I can't complain about this work. It's been an absolute pleasure, and selfishly, I've had a really great time meeting some incredible people like yourself, and just hearing what people are up to in this region. It's so exciting. And yeah, I can't wait to hear more about all the research that you do in 2025. You're going to have an incredible career, and it's so inspiring to see a woman like you in this region just breaking barriers and going after it. So, where can people find you? How can people get in contact with you?
So we are located in Fulton, New York. So 201 South 2nd Street, Fulton, New York. We have our Facebook. I will have in our Instagram, I'll have like the panhandles and stuff. I'll get to you if we could share on socials. I don't remember the exact panhandles off the top of my head, but people can reach us by calling. They can reach us on our website. It's renewed-vitality.com. And we have our social media sites. We really like to have some fun videos on there, and, get some humor going with some TikTok videos and stuff. So we really like to have everyone like feel like you're a part of the family, and like kind of tuck the veil behind the scenes of like, hey, this is who we are. We're pretty authentic. So, yeah, people can reach us on social media. That's a great way where they can understand what Lens is more.
Yeah. And we'll be sure to link everything in the show notes. So if you're interested in Lens, if you're interested in Cassie, check out the show notes. Other than that, thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I had a great time, and we'll definitely go in our rabbit holes after this.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Cultivate CNY. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you left us a review, and make sure you're subscribed to the show. Speaking of the show, if you know anyone, or if you are interested in being our next guest on Cultivate CNY,
be sure to submit us an application. You can just click the link in the show notes. And if you're a business owner that's interested in getting in front of our audience, you can go ahead and email us at podcast@cnywomensnetwork.com to learn more about sponsorship and advertising opportunities. All right, that's it for now. I'll catch you guys next Monday.